Sonal, you'll start first, right? You'll
Yes, ma'am.
start first.
Yes, ma'am. 1, 2, 3. Live stream?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's taking a little time. It's raining quite heavily here, so. But you
Oh.
can start, ma'am.
Yes. My EC member, Dr. Gopi, has joined. Hello, Gopi, sir.
Sonal, ma'am, you can start. The recording is
Yeah.
on.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today, we have a very enlightening panel and a discussion from the SIG Clinical Aphasiology, Indian Speech and Hearing Association. I welcome you all to the SIG Clinical Meet in support of Dementia Awareness Week. And we all know that speech pathologists and audiologists play a very important role in understanding, assessment, diagnosis, and the intervention throughout the disease progression, in understanding how the dementia's mild to moderate cognitive impairment affect the life and how we can enhance the quality of life in terms of auditory processing, their memory, attention, executive functions, language and communication abilities. So when someone suffers with dementia, specifically we have many etiologies to the dementia etiology spectrum, like stroke, small vessel and large vessel disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's dementia, and many other cortical, subcortical dementia syndromes. Each of them have a different clinical pathology, representing, if at all, the cortical and subcortical functions of speech, language, cognition, swallowing getting affected. And there comes a speech pathologist and audiologist, which play an important role in holistic communication, cognition, safe swallowing, and yes, hearing and vestibular intervention. So it's important that we help the team of neurologists, neurosurgeons, neuropsychologists, OT, PT, and join the hands and work together in terms of early identification and early intervention. In view of Dementia Awareness Week, we have esteemed resource person today who would be enlightening us. Today's panel, we have a chairperson who is our own Isha past president, Professor Maya Sanghi ma'am. I welcome Professor Sanghi ma'am. Professor
Thank you.
Sanghi ma'am is a pioneering figure in Indian Speech and Hearing Association and Audiology and Speech Language Therapy. With the TNMC AST college she has headed, she has contributed to healthy aging and dementia and aphasiology studies and mentored many clinical souls in speech pathology. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sonal.
Off to you.
So, do we start now?
Yes,
Yes, I
ma'am.
will.
Please take it ahead.
Okay, okay. So, as Sonal has rightly pointed out, that amongst the team who are trying to help individuals with dementia cope and the family members cope with the problems, we really need to be always keeping abreast with all the information that is happening. In fact, we were just discussing now that even the young ones start getting worried when they have some memory lapses, and more so with seniors like us, we always, get worried, and we definitely want to know what is the update, what are the recent studies which are going on and which can help us understand whether are we really having early signs So I think we should, without spending too much time,
Sorry for the inconvenience. I think ma'am lost her connection. We'll just wait for her.
Ma'am is on mute.
Okay.
okay. Okay. So I think whatever I was saying right now was heard or not. So no, right from the beginning, is it, or okay, okay, yeah. So basically, just going back to what I was saying is that.
You are audible, ma'am.
Pardon? Can you all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. No, I can hear you.
Okay. So like I was just discussing just before this started that we senior professionals also do get worried sometimes that are we having early signs of dementia, and some of you young ones may be worried about your parents, and therefore we always want to keep abreast with all the latest studies, the recent updates on this, on every topic in fact, and dementia more so nowadays with the world's population of older individuals is increasing because of the longer life expectancies, and therefore we really need to be able to contribute a great deal in helping these family members to cope up with this condition. And it is really a very good thought that Isha SIG has planned this topic during this dementia week, and I think it's really going to help all of us understand the recent findings on this particular topic. And we have a very young dynamic speech language pathologist and a scientist who who has just completed his doctorate, and he has his areas of interest in dementia and speech acoustics. And the major achievements, as we can see, he's a young investigator award which he received in, I mean recently he has received it this year itself at the AOCNR. He also has received the Young Scientist Award, then the best employee as a at the All India Institute. Is that All India Institute? I'm sorry, I'm not aware
Yes,
of.
ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
All India Institute Award 2019. Then Abhilasha Best Student Clinician Award in 2012. And he has won 14 Best Paper Awards in various national and international conferences. So we really have a star amongst us today who's presenting. And he's also an EC member and chair promotional committee, Isha EC member, as I said, Alzheimer's Society of India, Mysore chapter. So I welcome you, Dr. Varghese, to make this presentation, and I'm sure all of us, all the participants are very eager to hear you. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see the screen. I can see the screen.
A very good evening to one and all. As Sonal ma'am had told, September is World Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and this month we commemorate basically to create awareness regarding people who cannot remember, that is persons with dementia. And on behalf of the SIG Clinical Aphaesiology Group, I want to thank the team for giving me an opportunity to present my little work on dementia. So today's topic, which I want to cover, is on exploring early cognitive communicative markers for the diagnosis of dementia from an SLP's perspective. So in today's presentation, I will be basically focusing on 6 important things. Why research on dementia is important. Then I'll be talking about a concept called as mild cognitive impairment or MCI. Then do SLPs or speech language pathologists play a role in the diagnosis of dementia? I want to give a brief summary about my research and key findings, the future directions, and successful aging and ways to prevent dementia. So giving a one-line introduction about dementia, because we have students also, we have caretakers also in this program. So I want to make it very simple so that everyone would be able to understand it. So when you think of dementia, people usually have the conception that it's a disease of the brain or only memory. But I want to just say that dementia is not just a disease. It's a term used to describe a set of symptoms that include changes not only in memory, but various other cognitive skills, such as thinking, perception, reasoning, language, etc., etc. So dementia is less, it is more than just memory loss. And that is what, as we SLPs and other people should understand. So moving on to the next thing.
We can't hear you.
Rubin, you're muted.
First and foremost, dementia is, as ma'am told, has become a global epidemic. So if you see the world report, Alzheimer's report, 55 million people worldwide are living with dementia, and this number is going to double, almost 78 million by 2030 and 138 million by 2050. Moving on to the Indian scenario, presently there are 4.1 million persons with dementia, and this is going to escalate to 12.2 million by 2050. And also, I want to say that every 3 seconds, one person in the world develops dementia. So that is the magnitude of the problem. And that's why we should learn and understand and find out early ways to prevent dementia. Second thing, as I told, is about the lack of awareness or early identification of a condition called as mild cognitive impairment, which is typically termed as MCI. So MCI is basically, as you know, it's a transition zone between the cognitive decline arising as a part of normal aging, as well as the serious cognitive decline present in dementia. If you see MCI, the persons affected with MCI might have one or more cognitive domains which is affected. And also it won't affect their activities of daily living. That is one important thing which we should know. However, in dementia, 2 or more cognitive functions might be affected, and it becomes severe enough to interfere with activities of daily living. Hence, understanding and early awareness about the condition of MCI is pivotal in dementia research. Moving on to the third thing, that is the conversion. Studies have reported that 10 to 15% diagnosed with MCI, especially the amnestic one, progress to dementia within a span of 3 to 5 years. And that is the time where we need to act as speech pathologists or health professionals to identify early cognitive markers for MCI. Since MCI is a precursor to dementia, especially of Alzheimer's type, scientists around the world are exploring various methods for the early identification of MCI. If you see the research which was done, you can see most of the studies done on early identification of MCI are either neuroimaging techniques or blood-based markers. However, this can have a very lack of impact, especially to people who are in the urban region and who are not able to afford it. And also it becomes most of the time invasive. So in these cases, people are very hesitant to go for these techniques. And people are also finding out other ways for finding out early markers. Since cognition plays an important role in the speech and language abilities, impaired cognitive functions can also affect the speech and language abilities across normal and pathological aging conditions. From 2012, research is being done on finding out early cognitive communicative deficits, which can serve as early markers for persons with MCI, and also this can help in the differential diagnosis between persons with DAT as well as neurotypically elderly individuals. So the recent studies which state about the early markers are in terms of speech rate and pauses, language, linguistic comprehension and spontaneous speech, and in cognition, attention, working memory, recall, and problem solving. But if you see that limited studies are conducted in Southeast Asia, exploring cognitive communicative markers in terms of speech, language, and cognition. And more so in India, very handful studies are there. And this plays an important role for us to find out and do research on early markers for MCI. Moving on to the second thing, usually when a person is diagnosed as dementia or MCI, usually they go to a neurologist and a psychologist. Now the role of an SLP becomes very less. And as speech language pathologists, we should also know what all are our roles and what all ways we can help in improving the quality of life as well as communicative abilities of persons with dementia as well as mild cognitive impairment. So usually SLPs, they do the diagnosis, they do the different tests, and also they do the therapy regarding the affected cognitive areas, and usually it ends there. But if you see that SLPs can play even much better role. Other than the routine diagnosis and treatment, now swallowing disorders are there in dementia, and that's where SLPs can play an important role. And second thing, and an important thing which I find lacking, especially in the Indian context, is the consultation and collaborating with other professionals. That is a person from the engineering background, a scientist or a doctor, and collaborating research is very limited, as well as we tend to involve less family members. Usually we do our testing and diagnosis and research, but even if we take the consensus of the family members, we can get better input, and that can help us in better research. So while I was about to start my PhD, I had great thoughts in my mind. So I searched different journals, and I want to do something very big, and I want to do in a very big setup, and I want to do a big study. But later, I think I had a lecture by Professor Rangasai, and he told that research is not about p-values or significance. He was my former director at NIHH, and it should work on focusing on the society, and that then we can say that that research is beneficial. And that motivated me to take a topic on dementia, because what I felt that in India, dementia research is very scanty and it's a national priority. So if more persons are there with dementia in the country, it will surely affect our country. So I want to do something so that it can have an impact on the country as such. So moving on, along with the other gaps, I found certain research gaps which I needed to address. So if you see research, you can see billions of studies done on cognitive communicative deficits in normal aging and Alzheimer's. But there are very, very few scanty studies done on mild cognitive impairment. So that's one thing which prompted me. Second thing, that if you see, majority of the studies are on cognition and language. So speech markers are less explored. So that is one thing which again instilled a research question in me. And finally, most of the tests which we use are paper pencil based, and most of them are time consuming, and it is mostly less objective. So I wanted an objective tool so that we can get better face validity when we are interacting with professionals as well as clients. And again, why identification of these early markers is important. First, it allows the individuals as well as the family members valuable time to accept the diagnosis. That's very important. So if earlier time they get, this can help them in adapting their lives, and it can lead to better quality of life, as well as also we can also give intervention at a very early stage, which can surely have a positive impact on the client as well as the caregivers. So basically, my research was on exploring and comparing the early cognitive communicative deficits in persons with dementia of Alzheimer's type, mild, and mild cognitive impairment and neurotypically elderly, using various speech, language, and cognitive tasks. This is an overview of the steps which I used. And I had 100 participants, which were divided into 3 groups. And it's not moving. Okay, the inclusion criteria which I used was as follows for the 3 groups. And all were 60 years or above, native Kannada speakers. They had adequate vision and hearing. They had minimum education up to 10th grade, and they were checked with MMSE scores and MOCA scores. So again, I wanted to see which all tests were able to clearly identify early markers. So I did a systematic review and meta-analysis by looking into recent articles. And then I found that these are the few of the measures which can serve as potential markers. So in speech, what I did was I took basically rate measures and temporal measures. In DDK I did, and it basically both alternate motion rate and sequential motion rate. And in temporal measures, I did various duration measures. And also I checked how the time duration between digits during digit backward task and time duration between digits during semantic time duration between words during semantic fluency task. In language measures, I checked the linguistic comprehension and linguistic expression abilities. And also I checked the discourse. And here also I wanted to have an objectivity. So I used SALT analysis. And basically I checked the MLU as well as the TTR for both picture description and conversation task. And in cognitive task, we checked memory, recall, attention, executive function, problem solving, and organization. So this was also done using various objective softwares, so that we could have more objectivity in the diagnosis. So basically, I want to say a few of the important findings which I found. So basically, in terms of rate, we found that NT had better rates compared to MCI and DAT, and also durational measures also. Persons with dementia took more time compared to the other groups. So again, we can see that MCI lies in between the two continuum, and that is one thing which we need to know. But there are so many tests which we did. Now, which tests can serve as a proper biomarker? So we did ROC analysis. where we found that only 2 tasks was able to clearly differentiate MCI with good specificity and sensitivity. That is time duration between digits during digit backward task and time duration between words during semantic fluency task. So now I want to tell you a few of the possible reasons for the reduced AMR. So we all know that recently kinematic studies have found that even persons with DAT have reduced lip strength, increased time due for lip closure, poor tongue movements. All this might have had an impact in their AMR and SMR rates. And also we know that the neurofacial tangles basically accumulate more in the medial frontal region, which might also result in poor motor agility. And this must have start. So if you go for the possible reasons for the increased time duration, again, there are a lot of neuropathological and neuroanatomical changes which is happening in the pathological cases like MC and DAT, and this might have resulted in increased time duration. And also we can say that the subvocal articulate rehearsal, especially in the verbal tasks, are more affected in DAT compared to MCI and NT. Moving on to the important findings in language measures. So we basically did linguistic comprehension and linguistic expression tasks. Again, the scores were poorer for DAT followed by MCI and NTE. And again, we can say that the left inferior cortex, which plays an important role in the linguistic comprehension, is affected more in DAT. And also the beta amyloid protein accumulation, which is happening in the major working memory areas. And also the medial temporal gyrus anatomical problems might result in poor linguistic abilities for the pathological cases compared to the other cases. So again, in this ROC analysis, we found that a type token ratio was a good marker in identifying persons with MCI. So moving on to the cognitive markers, we did different tasks, like again, we did an Naiven's task, object stoop task. So these tasks were not much carried out in these population. And again, we found that the cognitive scores were poorer for the DAT followed by MCI and NTE. And in ROC analysis, we found that generative naming and delayed story recall. So these two tasks were very helpful in identifying persons with MCI. So again, moving on to the poor cognitive abilities, the reasons we can say that hippocampus is affected in DAT, and these might have led to the poor episodic memory deficits. And also in terms of semantic memory, persons with DAT show anomia attention deficits. So that might have resulted in poor semantic memory scores. Similarly, the neuronal loss and also the neurotransmitter poor activation might result in the other memory issues in DAT compared to MCI and NT. So another thing which is less explored is the visuospatial memory. So again, we found that that was also affected in DAT compared to MCI and NT. And also executive function and problem solving and organization abilities were affected. Basically, we can say that due to the neuropathological and neuroanatomical manifestations, which is seen in these pathological cases. Basically, the limitations of my study, I can say that I took, due to the limited availability of the participants across age group comparison could not be done. And only in my present study, persons with mild DAT and amnestic MCI was considered. And also comparisons across different types and different types of DAT as well as different subtypes of MCI could not be investigated. So the future directions which I want to say is that we should try to conduct this study with more number of samples, different age groups, and also different types of dementia, and also involving fMRI or ERP studies for better understanding of the cognitive deficits according to the different regions. So I have done a few publications And one thing which I wanted to say, that initially when I took the topic, I had a lot of apprehensions, like whether research on dementia is important, but I found that it's very important. And where do SLPs play a role in the world, especially in the dementia early identification? So I feel that we play a very important role, and this helped in me in presenting in various conferences and disseminating my results. And lastly, what I felt that through my research, I was able to bring smile to persons who were in a very different world. At least I was able to give them the early, so that they were able to live a better life in their society. And I would like to acknowledge a few people. First of all, my mentor and guide for being a very encouraging and cool guide, and my directors for helping me conducting this research, my teachers from both AYJ and Aish for all the help. And lastly, this research work would not be possible without my participants. So I would like to thank them also. I also like to thank Isha for giving me this opportunity to present this research, and also the clinical physiology group. And I wanted to say a few take-home messages. That is, as I said before, SLPs play an important role. We need to understand the patient as well as their family members, and we need to collaborate, connect, and network. And since it is Dementia Awareness Week, and people from different classes, different caregivers, everyone is participating in this, I wanted to share a short video of it's actually my own grandfather, and he's 93-year-old, and ways of successful aging.
You'll be playing the video?
Yeah, I'll be playing the video.
Yeah.
It's one. Is it visible, ma'am?
Not yet. There was just, yeah, now it has just started. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually raining here, so
It just flashed and it stopped again.
Ruben, you have to play.
yeah.
Ruben, can you just
It's paused.
press the
You
play
just
button?
Okay,
play.
yeah, I understood. Yes.
Computer audio is not shared, I think. We can't hear. Can you share computer audio?
Yeah. There is no sound, na? I think we cannot hear him. So,
Okay, ma'am.
okay.
Okay,
You
ma'am. Then
have to share the computer sound, computer audio. Can you try that and reshare?
At least the last part where he's speaking. So,
okay, ma'am. I will. Is it audible, ma'am?
we can hear you, but not the. Now the video is not seen.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. I will.
Ruben, you have to unmute yourself.
I will just stop this video, and I think it's not happening properly. So I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
You can reshare it with enabling computer audio.
Okay.
Sonal, this is Gopikrishnan. What I suggest is that perhaps we have a few questions in the chat box, I believe.
Yeah.
So perhaps we can address that, and then if the time permits later.
Yes, yes.
Yes, even I was going to suggest that let's address the questions while he's trying to, figure out how he can improve that sound of the video. So, I think the first question that we can take is, of course, I just wanted to ask you that, you have taken these subjects. Did you, in the history, have the information about all the participants doing yoga regularly? Yoga regularly?
No, nothing. Oh, yoga,
Nothing.
not yoga, not yoga.
Not yoga. Okay, okay. No, because I think your grandfather was doing some.
Yeah, that was
exercises and
actually
all.
actually I will just tell you what was he wanted to say. Like he had a very good life. Like he used to do exercise, he used to walk, and he used to socially interact like that. So actually I thought, like, if that things are there, it can help in like reducing dementia to a little extent. That's why.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll take the question. The first one came from Mr. Chandan Kumar as to why the neurotypical individuals were comparatively more in number. That's his question.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes,
can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear
Yeah.
you.
So
We can hear you.
basically we for getting the selection criteria, it was very strict, and to get that much patients for the MCI and DAT group was difficult. So we wanted to take neurotypical because that was available more, and we also wanted to have a database of that also in this research.
Okay, so for the long-term
Yes,
plans, you
long
can
term.
have.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Chandan, are you wanting to ask anything more related to your question? Okay, we'll go on to the next question is from Krupa Solanki. What is timed token ratio? That's a question.
It is not time token ratio, ma'am. It is type token ratio.
Yes.
For example, like if you say the number of different words which we use in a particular one sentence. So if, for example, I am Ruben, means I am using 3 different words by 3 words. So it will be 3 by 3 by, that is will be 1. But if I'm just saying I Ruben, it will be 2 divided by 3, so it will be reduced. That is something. So different, for example, paraphrasias and all, when they say the same word, it is less. But if you use different words, it is in simple terms.
We use this for children also, right?
Yes, we
to
use this
assess
for
their
children
language.
also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The next question is from Mithali Sharma. What were the exclusionary criteria of
Hello, ma'am. I cannot hear you.
exclusion criteria?
Okay, so persons who had difficulty in hearing, we were not, this is all corrected hearing people, and also people below the age of 60 we did not take, and also people who had visual impairments we did not take, and all were Kannada speaking individuals.
Okay. India is essentially multilingual,
Yes.
and multilingualism is said to offer some cognitive boost.
Yes.
Would this offer some insurance against cognitive decline and dementia? Very interesting question.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. So if you see the patients also, patients who are exposed to different languages, for them, even after when they get the dementia, that's not so fast, the progression. Like that is one thing which even I found in my study. When I was for another case, I was seeing he knew 5 languages, including French and German, other than 3 Indian languages. So what I found that when he got MCI, and his progression to dementia was very late. But another patient, same patient, almost similar scores, he developed dementia in another 3 years. But this person developed at a very later stage. So various studies are there, which also says that the more engaged you are with the different linguistic abilities, it will surely delay your progression, and also the cognitive reserve also plays an important role, and that's why I feel it's very important.
It's very important to understand the cognitive reserve in this Indian population. Like when we have a healthy lifestyle, the diet, veg and non-veg, versus then the activity of daily living. Many people, I feel, when they are even in old age, continuing to meet people, socialize, not depressed, trying to open up, and that also has a good effect on your cognition. So social cognition is very important, and that has a protective mechanism, the neural networks. So the insidious dementia, it could be there, but the same process may have a symptoms which can come in picture, could be pretty late. And the genetic factors of Alzheimer's, something which we cannot avoid. However, the protective mechanism can still help that a person can have delays of symptoms. So in the stroke registry and dementia registry from Nizam's Hyderabad Memory Clinic, there's a good data which have come up, and the studies have told that the bilingual semantic dementia, bilingual progressive non-fluent aphasia, bilingual Alzheimer's, bilingual vascular dementias, if they are continuing to use the language, if they are maintaining the healthy lifestyle, then they have a slow progression compared to the other people who are having risk of regressing faster. Whereas some people who are monolingual in the study, they have found that they are regressing faster from the no or age-associated memory impairment to the mild cognitive impairment and the pathological cognitive impairment and the typical dementia. So that's what it's important to understand that. Now in MCI, if we just consider MMSE, then we may not get correct findings, because MMSE is really absolute in terms of like understanding your verbal memory, and people who are at good stage where the cognition could be really better, even early 80s could be actually normal or mild cognitive impairment on the MMSE. So it's important that we understand the education, literacy, bilingualism, the diet, and these are the simple important domains to understand. Typical memory domain and mild cognitive impairment. How mild is mild for a teacher? How mild is mild for a CEO of the company? And how it is mild cognitive impairment for a farmer? So, occupation also matters. So these are something which I really would like people can discuss, think. Being SLPs, I feel we actually test confrontation naming more. It's a verbal fluency, generative naming, which should be really tested across nouns and verbs also. So when people don't get correct word, tip of tongue phenomenon, that needs to be really looked into. A very impressive study, Ruben.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ruben, there is one more question for you.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
is multiple domain MCI? Could you
So,
elaborate on that?
yeah, multiple domain MCI means that they'll have different, for example, usually we have MCI amnestic and non-amnestic. So when two, like amnestic plus non-amnestic come together, then we can say it as a multiple domain MCI. So like that, or else if there are other cognitive factors also involved in it, then we'll say it as a multiple domain. Usually we'll have a single domain MCI. So single domain MCI is either amnestic MCI, that is only there is a problem in the memory, or non-amnestic. But multiple domain means it is more than single one. So you will have a different things, and that is a multiple domain MCI.
Yeah. In our Indian scenario, we get to see verbal memory is impaired. So in an early stage, person might have just single domain
Yes.
memory impairment.
Yes.
And the language scores could be really preserved or excellent language scores. So it's important to understand the executive functions, verbal, non-verbal, attention,
Yes.
memory, so and visual spatial skills. So multiple domain non-amnestic syndromes are also important to be highlighted when the person is highly affluent and very well to do, an active profile he or she has. That could be something which we need to really work as a SLP. The DDK is really helpful. The kinematic studies could be really helpful. And I want to add to that many studies which have focused on COA, controlled oral word association. It's a simple task
Yeah.
from a Benton's multiple
Yes.
multilingual aphasia examination, could be really helpful in understanding verbal fluency and how it is getting degenerated. Yeah, ma'am, do you have
Yeah.
any questions more to be taken?
Do we have time to take? Because there are a few more questions already on the chat.
If
So
we can take one or two
Uh,
more, yeah, we can take.
yeah, I think there are not too many. We can, I think, take each one of them quickly. So this question on diabetes that is associated with an increased risk for dementia,
Yes.
was that addressed anywhere in the study? That's the question.
Yeah, usually we did the general physician's report we got before taking the study, and for that people who are taking medications for diabetics were taken, but who are not taking medications were not included in study, because diabetes can play a role, because sometimes what happens, the sugar level increases, their attention for the particular task decreases. So only people who are taking medication for diabetics were taken, otherwise it was not taken.
Yeah. The next question is from Maitri. Is it a longitudinal study and any follow-up?
Yeah, this was not a longitudinal study, but actually I'm continuing it post my thing. So we are waiting
That will
for
be really good.
yeah, that
Yes.
is waiting for the results.
Pooja asks as to how many years will it take for the progression to happen on an average?
Yeah, there is no hard and fast rule, but studies say that within 3 to 5. 3 to 5. So in my cases also, what I found during my longitudinal study was that by 3.54, they got it. So it might vary. Some got even at 2.5 also, but the approximate is 3 to 5.
Like Sonal pointed out, there are multiple factors,
Yes, factors,
so it
yes,
will
yes.
really
Have an
differ.
impact. Yes.
Yeah, but by and large, you have found 3 to 5 years,
Yes,
right?
yes, I
So-
found. Yeah.
And
They
Pooja
say
has
that mild cognitive impairment to Alzheimer's conversion, sometimes it takes 2 years to 8 years also.
Yeah,
It depends
yes.
on the protective factors, the cognitive
Yes,
reserve,
yes.
communicative,
Yes.
the social aspects. However, there are few people who maintain a good linguistic or communicative lifestyle and the function, and the subtle communicative deficits get somewhere ignored. Whereas the verbal memory, their orientation, their overall apathy towards the premorbid agility can be seen. And I feel, being speech pathologist, it's important that we consider everyday communication, then the communication when we are going out and socializing, and there how much frequent the person is having the difficulty in getting correct words, remembering names, talking
Yes.
more than sentences, and containing the good amount of vocabulary, and the attrition of your conversation. The discourse aspects are really poorly studied. I feel if we study connected speech, the much
Yeah.
more volume of information you get to see.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, last I think Isha SIG, I think Dr. Arpita madam had given about the linguistic markers like for dementia. I think that can be also studied more, ma'am. That's very good.
So cookie theft or your
Yeah,
birthday
cookie
party
theft.
picture,
Yeah.
umbrella picture from a Fraser-Bank protocol, the discourse comprehension and a discourse written and the oral, both narrative aspects are really helpful in understanding. So there is a nun study which has similar findings like yours. They
Yes,
have
yes.
studied the nuns from the 35 years of age to 60, 65. And the people who actually have genetic familial dementia versus risk of developing Alzheimer's, they could see a marked difference in their writing, their choosing correct words. And that was a very enlightening study. Dr. Gopi Krishnan, do you want to make a comment, sir?
Yeah, am I audible, by the way?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I'm hi, Ruben. Sorry,
Hi, sir. Hi, sir. Hello.
Are you able to hear me, Ruben?
Yes, yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Anyways, thanks, Ruben, for that wonderful talk.
Thank you,
I
sir.
was enjoying. I am just not turning my video on because the network is unstable over here, so it will end up in issues. So that's why if I'm audible, that's perfectly fine. So, anyways, congratulations on your study.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I just wanted to ask, two questions to you. One is perhaps directly related to the experience that you had when you were interacting with the clients while recruiting.
Yes.
So there are so many lags and dearths and kind of this one in the Indian context. But now, in your experience, did you come across some strength because strength in either the management or assessment or management of persons with the dementia or MCI because being in the Indian context? In a nutshell, does the Indian, our family setup, does it have anything to play with the, in fact, even the identification of MCA?
Yes, sir. One thing what I want to tell is while I was collecting the data, I had to go to an old age home. So in that old age home, what the people used to do there is that in Mysore, actually, filter coffee is very famous. And so usually what they do is that they involve the clients, the people who are in the old age home to cook. Okay, so while cooking, someone will say, actually, I even sat and saw it. So actually, they bought coffee for me. They will say, sugar, you need more. The filter thing is not done. Some will say decoction is more. So it's, some will say that, see, my she's actually from the Tamil Nadu. My auntie used to make the best coffee. So here, what we see that in Indian context, again, I feel is that there is more of a what you see, they put different things in very personal, and related to their family, and some like that. I feel that is very important because we have got a culture which is very diverse, and when people from different parts interact and when they do different things, especially in this caregiver setups, I think it is very good. That is one thing which I found very positive. Second thing, that we earlier had the notion that this dementia MCI was happening. Especially I had a notion it was usually for the lower income group. It is there, but in my study, even the people in the higher economic group also had. So people who are in income tax officers, IAS officers. So there also I found that it is not that thing, but only advantage what I felt is that the family was more receptive. So once they found out few signs, then the children used to go to a neurologist or a neuropsychiatrist, get the follow-up. Then that was more fast, especially when the people are in the higher economic strata. But when it is in the lower economic strata, people will say that he's getting old. Everyone gets old. So like that, it gets prolonged. So that is one thing. And these two are the things which I found very useful, sir, especially while interacting.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ruben. And in fact, even in Mysore, I think they use, if you go to a coffee shop, I'm sure you'll have, say, half or buy two.
Buy two.
Such kind of very complex calculation, which I think it's really funny. But it's in fact mind blowing also the way they make those calculations. And my second question to you is that now next time when you meet, or emphasize
Yes.
What will you say from your studies perspective?
No, actually, I have not met him. I just told him I got my PhD. This
Just
things and
think
all. I
that
have
he is
not.
attending this conference,
No, he is
this
not
talk,
attending.
and he is asking you, on behalf of him, I asked you.
Yeah, I think that actually that has played a very important role in my life. Actually, I did not think of this topic, especially for my research. I was never into this adult language and all. So, but I think that time I just took it, and my guide also was very helpful. And somehow it happened. And I think I've got something which I can give it to the clients and for myself. Is.
Okay, thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for the talk. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
best
you,
wishes.
sir.
Gopi,
Yeah.
Maya
Yeah,
ma'am,
yeah.
can I just add Anima here?
Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am. It's always pleasure.
Okay. Okay, Ruben, I first congratulate you on bringing objectivity into our paper pencil tests.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
thank you so much for that. I just wanted to add on 2-3 things. I think one thing that this audience should remember is that whatever we do from our speech pathology point of view, it strengthens whatever clinical findings are available for us. So we cannot discount whatever the neuroradiology or the biomarkers contribute for us. We have to remember that by just taking a single sample of blood, you will be able to predict if the person will get dementia or not. Okay, so the point that you spoke about it being costly and things like that, I think in the near future, India is moving towards somewhere where we are
Yes.
going to have everything which is made in India, and
Yes.
so the cost factor is definitely going to come down both for neuroimaging and for our biomarker analysis. Okay, so we are
Yes, ma'am.
moving towards that.
Yes, ma'am.
The other question, which was asked by one person in the audience, was about the longitudinal studies. I would ask that, I don't remember who asked the question now, but I suggest that when if you are interested in these conversions, you should take, there are a lot of Indian studies who have done it as longitudinal, and I would quote Madanatha sir's study
Yes,
also.
yes, I was about to say
The
that.
cohort was followed up for 10 years.
Yes.
So the percentage of conversion is very, very clear in that article. So I would just suggest that you go back and do that. I'm happy that such a topic was taken up for today's discussion. Thank you so much, Ruben, and the rest
Thank
of
you,
the team.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so much,
joining.
ma'am.
And I want to make a note here that Anama ma'am is one of the pioneering SLP in the typical neuro SLP domain, where she has worked with cognitive neurologist, Professor Mathur Nath, who has given us this Edinburgh cognition examination tool, which is really very good. And she has contributed to some good research to SLP, the role of SLP. Including the one which is ACE and its validity, and the PNFA and the SD dementia studies also. Ruben, there's one last question someone wants to ask about role of SLP would be more in early identification, or it is
Both.
only in
Both.
intervention,
We cannot
prolong better quality of
No,
life?
it is for both, ma'am. Identification as well as for treatment. Both SLPs play a role. But usually the early identification of MCI was not explored more by SLP. So that's one thing which I wanted to say. But still we play important role in the intervention also.
So there is a growing need of
Yes.
speech pathologists to be included in memory clinics across country. So we need to really approach neurologists, we need to approach general physicians, psychiatrists, neuropsychiatrists, and advocate our role. It's important that we spread awareness, we get involved, we do importantly a kind of teamwork. So unless we go and tell what we know, what we can do, they may not be easily knowing and incorporating us. So it's important that we collaborate and try to actually have our scope of practice widely been actually practice. That's how I feel in India, the multilingual India, bilingual India, with different heterogeneous picture, we really play an important role, and our roles are not actually well understood or even well practiced also. Coming back to the hearing, I will strongly say that people who have got hearing loss and have not got good amplification and tend to have a poor understanding, speech perception, and later they have a higher chances of developing dementia. So that's a kind of studies coming up now. But so getting their early identification of hearing loss and giving a correct amplification and helping them to communicate better is also very important part of early intervention, preventive measure, and yes, it will really help in the towards lesser progression. Yeah. Could I please request you to please mute yourself? Whoever is this?
Yeah. See, I personally have heard about this hearing loss, and if the person is not given amplification, he becomes lonely because he withdraws himself, and that leads to depression and cognitive impairment. I have read about this, and I think that's a very good topic that can be taken up for discussion, maybe for next year's dementia awareness month, because that will definitely bring about more awareness among people. See, most of the elderly population, they stay without amplification. You know, they buy the hearing aids and they put it in the drawers. They don't use it. So I think that's a very important aspect that needs to be brought to the notice of public, and we need to do some awareness about this. I think since we are talking about it today, I thought we should consider this. I think Isha should consider taking up this topic and
Come on.
bringing about awareness. Because see, pain, this is a Latin proverb, pain of mind is worse than pain of body. And what Verghese has done is like he's bringing about more awareness amongst people by doing this as directed by Mr. Rangasai. So it's a very good step that you've taken to help people, because more studies being done, that will definitely bring about more awareness, because when you take up these individuals, they understand the importance of getting help, so
Yes,
that will help
definitely.
them to cope with the condition. So I think we can end it here now, Sonal. So,
Yes, ma'am.
so thank you, Varghese, for your wonderful presentation. And I would like to thank all the participants for being active listeners and asking questions. So that made it a very interactive session at the end. Thank you so much. And I would like to thank Isha, SIG, for giving me this opportunity that helped me, get back to academics a little, since I have been totally into clinics. So thank you so much.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, ma'am.
Thank
I
you.
would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our chairperson, Maya Sangi ma'am. She has been very inspiring and very motivated and very supportive person. At this age also, she serves many elderly, many people with communication, cognitive and swallowing disability at Shri Guruji Charity Trust at Nashik, and she keeps inspiring us. So we all thank you, ma'am. I do want to thank our resource person for the wonderful contribution towards the dementia awareness talk today. And he's our own EC, and I really appreciate his great research, his enthusiasm in the field of cognitive communication, neurological and neuro rehabilitation perspective. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Thank you, ma'am.
I
Thanks
would
a
like to
lot.
thank my EC, dear Dr. Gopi Krishnan sir, Annama ma'am, and Sunil Kumar Ravi. I would like to thank Isha President Dr. Krishna sir. Without his support, it would not be having possible. So I would like to thank Dr. Krishna sir and our Secretary Suman sir and entire Isha team. Thank you so much all. Thank you so much, audience. You have been very, very great, enthusiastic, and always been cheering us. So SIG Isha Clinical Physiology, thank you. So we look forward to meeting you next. Tomorrow we have a collaborative talk with Alzheimer's Dementia Society and the IFNR and AIN. So I would like you all to please try if you can join and have an active interaction. So the panel would be from neurologist, neuropsychiatrist, neuropsychologist, occupational therapist, PT, and myself, neurospeech pathologist. So we welcome you all there. Thank you so much all.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Stay safe all. Thank you.